Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Lads for our predictions and speculation series. This week, we will be talking about episode 7 of Skeleton Crew, the penultimate episode. So, a lot of things should happen this week in what should be a pretty big episode leading into the finale. This week's episode is directed by Lee Isaac Chung, and we're going to speculate about everything we think could happen in this week's episode leading into the finale next week. So let us know what you think could happen. We'd love to respond to your guys' comments and your theories about what could happen in the episode. Send us a comment down below. Let us know what you thought. Subscribe so you don't miss the last predictions video, which will be next week for episode 8. And then we have 2 more streams live every single week right after the episodes air, where we discuss the latest in the episodes, what happened, full spoilers, give you guys a chance to comment in the chat and let us know what you thought of the episodes. Give us your immediate reactions. We just have a great time discussing Skeleton Crew for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Join us there every single week. Make sure you join us for episodes 7 and 8. Okay, let's get into this week's predictions. Hopefully, this is a big, exciting penultimate episode. In most of TV nowadays, we're constantly conditioned to expect the penultimate episode to almost be bigger than the finale in a lot of ways. It's going to set a lot of things up for the big conflicts that should be resolved in the finale. And so coming off of episode 5 and 6, 6 being the shortest episode we've had in this show so far, a 25-minute episode that really focused on character. And I think both of us last week, our predictions were close to what happened ultimately in this episode, but I think the episode went about it in a far different way than I think we kind of expected. We expected more intense, more action, more of a chase, more of a mad scramble to get off the planet. And what we got was a more reserved episode where the characters had to deal with their own personal consequences and grow and ultimately become the full crew, the skeleton crew of the Onyx Cinder, as they transform the ship and take off in kind of half of it as they shed the outer hull and fly into space in a different version of it. But now there's a mad scramble for At-Attin as we see that Jod Nanawood, well, he does his escape attempt on his own as captain. Doesn't go too well. He's captured by Captain Brutus and the rest of the pirates, and he's taken on board where he has to sell the idea of At-Attin and the fact that he knows where it is in order for them to let him live. So he's heading there with the rest of the pirates reluctantly. Now you have the kids heading back there. Sanak, what do you think is going to happen this week in episode 7 as all of these forces start to come to a head on At-Attin?
Like you said, I think this will be a pretty big episode. And I've been kind of spending the last 2 weeks saying, and the parents. This time, I think it's got to be the parents leading it. Like, it has to, because we know and we've seen promo shots. We've seen a little bit of footage, I think, of things happening on At-Attin, when everyone is kind of teamed up together. And I can totally see that being reserved for an episode 8. I could totally see the show venturing to have maybe most of the parties, but not the kids, come onto At-Attin until we get to see the parents and everyone working together in episode 8. I would prefer to see them all be there, even if they are at different times and different points of the episode. But no matter what, I think the underlying foundation has to be the parents, because we still don't know the mystery of why everyone's an analyst. Why is everyone kind of dictated by these robots with this faceless supervisor, right? It almost does feel like a Loki season 1 where it's like we don't know about these 3 beings, the ones that are in charge and all that. Like, we hear about it, but we've heard even less about the supervisor. We've just gotten some of the basic stuff in some of those preliminary episodes, and past that, and following the kids, following Jod and the pirates, we haven't really seen anything with the parents besides one kind of poor attempt at accessing some information about the supervisor that the droids immediately sniffed out, right? We did both mention that it was pretty interesting that, hey, there is ways to kind of shut down the droids and erase their memories, that there is some level of control. It's not like a total totalitarian state that's been enforced by these droids. So what is the balance? How are they going to navigate through here? Are they going to reprogram a droid? What's the angle here? And I think no matter what, the espionage angle is still going to continue on. It just might not necessarily be in Wim's dad's building. It might just be more what Farah is aware of, and it could be based off of the locations that we see, in the episode with the French kind of planet at Akron, they had this like reserved inner sanctum where all these secrets and knowledge are kept. I'm assuming we're going to get that kind of re-highlighted. You don't just throw that out and make it big emphasis on that for just one episode. I assume that is the end goal. I think that's what the parents, especially Farah, is going to identify as like that's where we'll get all our knowledge. It doesn't seem like we can contact the supervisor. We can't go to the droids. It's more about how do we get into there, pick apart all the secrets that we need. So I expect to see her and Wim's father to kind of really take the lead and charging towards there, maybe making use of their skill sets, maybe understanding why specifically they almost got trained and like pushed into these roles in life and how they can almost subvert them and use it against the system. So I think we're going to see a lot of different footage of them walking through different vistas, different parts of the city landscape, kind of get a better understanding of all the different pieces that we've seen across at Akron and all these little misadventures that the kids have been having, see what they can connect and what they're seeing that the kids have already kind of seen in their own way, some new things for sure, and see how it all kind of functions the city together. Like we've seen these cars on tracks, we've seen everything be so connected and powered and like almost guided by a rope here. So now it's the question is, what is causing all that? How is the city essentially function? I'd like to see some of the things that they're going to have to do to maybe like turn off the suburban utopia to maybe get into this reserved place of knowledge. Whether that is where the supervisor is or not, I don't know, but definitely somewhere where like at least get a huge chunk of clues and maybe the very concrete location of where they might be. You know, we've also had that headless statue on Akron. It was pretty interesting that Neil was the only member of his species that we know is part of these like base species on At-Attin that isn't on Akron. I don't think we saw any of his species in the background. So we also haven't seen, besides a very like far away shot of Neil's father. Maybe Neil's father comes into play here in the story. He could be the supervisor. That would be pretty interesting that the most innocent, sweetest one of the group has a father that's kind of running this whole thing or been kind of put into this position through centuries of descendants or something like that. And Neil is next up. But if that doesn't go that way, I'd like to at least see his father play a little bit more of an active role. Definitely see KB's parents kind of pop up and give their own input and really help us understand how At-Attin's been functioning from the adult eyes, what these different buildings are actually for, right? Like it, almost in the same way as like the kids in Stranger Things being like, oh, Department of Energy, what does that really mean? Oh, my dad told me it means that they're actually building weapons. So I'd like to see a little bit more of like what is the adult versions of the buildings? What do they know that they all house? What is their function and all that? Really lay out At-Attin because we've only seen the woods of At-Attin and then just the school. Now it's about like what is the life like outside of that, and I think we're going to see that with the parents. I expect to see after most of that dominating that first third of the episode to get the pirates arriving and being like, okay, where are we? And again, Brutus wants to take the lead. He doesn't like being called disrespected like at first mate, but Jaw's going to be like SM-33. That looks like that building we saw in Nat Akron. Like, okay, this is the pathway we can go here. Okay, what about the secrets that you've had from Tak Renan, right? Like, how can we navigate towards these buildings? Maybe some things are exactly the same. Maybe some things have been shifted around, changed over the years, decades, centuries, whatever it may be. But I can definitely see this be where he kind of coalesces the group around him again, kind of gets back into his element in a way that we expected maybe to see a little bit more in episode 6. And then maybe we got to see a little bit more of Jod being like, do I really want this? As it all kind of feels artificial, kind of feels fake, like I'm manipulating people again too far. It's not like the same with the kids. I'd like to see some of those seeds start getting planted. Definitely could come from Nick Frost's performance in SM-33, like you were saying on the live here. Oh, Captain Fern would have done this. Or like, oh, Captain Fern mentioned something about that. Like Wim was saying this. KB and Neil are always talking about that, right? So I'd like to see him be constantly reminded about the kid while he's being informed by SM-33 as his navigator. And I'd like to see the frustrations of the pirates kind of start boiling over, a little bit of skirmishes and fights, but still kind of advancing towards that final destination, just like the parents are. And then finally, that final third, I expect to see the kids pop up. I'd like to see a little bit of downtime before they actually get there, maybe naming their ship the Skeleton or something, because they literally ripped off the flesh equivalent of the ship. And it's a whole new thing. It's been reborn. So what are they going to go for inspiration? Well, the skeletons that are still on board the ship, I believe. So that could be a good way of calling it. And then maybe calling themselves the Skeleton Crew and then landing there, but definitely being able to catch up because, hey, we're a crew, we're working together, we're not just two separate friend groups anymore, but this is our home planet now. Like we should know where to go or where our parents will generally be going. So yeah, I could think all the stuff that they've developed and learned over this series come to a head. And if the groups meet together all at once, I feel like that's more in episode 8, but at least the kids will be able to intercept the parents, or the parents will intercept them, and you'll form that bigger group that can rival the size of the pirates.
I think for once, I finally agree with you that I think the parents will be one of the big forces in this episode. And I do expect a little bit more of a build up and a lead up to who is the supervisor. I think that's going to be a big question. And why is the supervisor not helping us, or why is the supervisor leading us in this direction? We know that the parents, especially Wim's dad, he's kind of got to be careful because he's already been caught trying to snoop around in the office. I think it's still going to be semi kind of workplace espionage type of stuff. I expect a little bit more of Fern's mom. I expect more Farah in this episode. And I expect her to be trying to get to the supervisor, trying to talk to the supervisor, trying to find out what's up. But the droids are like, no, you can't talk to the supervisor, because they're going to keep hinting at who is the supervisor for the rest of this episode. And I think we ultimately get the reveal by the end. I really do. I think we get the reveal, and I still am not sold on any specific theory for the supervisor. I've had 3 different ones personally across the time we've been talking about Skeleton Crew. The one that I think all of them still work in a fashion, but I think the one that still works out of my 2 previous ones really is the droid hive mind type thing. I think this still could be a place that is run by droids. I think it could still be something that's run by a droid intelligence, a droid brain that's kind of controlling everybody via, these human batteries type of thing. He's using them to power this society that benefits these droids. I think that's a possibility. The other one I've had is that it's a fallen family or Jedi or Sith or somebody from the old Republic who kind of took this planet for themselves. And then their family generations have slowly controlled this planet for years and years and years until we finally get the reveal, and maybe the last name is a big name drop or hint towards something from the old Republic. And the other one is that it is Tak Renid, or somebody related to Tak Renid, who is the supervisor of this planet, who is running the planet, or maybe killed the original supervisor, and that's why he's hiding off and nobody has seen him since, because he is trying to pretend like the old supervisor might still be running the planet. And I think you will get kind of the reveal. I'm starting to lean towards the Tak Renid theory a little bit more, considering that this show is trying to make a big point about the fact that he is dead, but nobody's seen him to see if he's dead. Nobody knows exactly what happened. SM-33 hasn't really confirmed anything. Could have just been planted there. That ship is hidden on purpose, obviously. It looks like it's been buried. I don't think it's just been from time that it's covered in dirt. I think it's covered on purpose. And so I'm leaning towards that theory. I think by the end of the episode, we get a confirmation of who the supervisor is. So that's one big thing I think will happen. I think that'll play into a bit more of the parents angle. The other angles I think are between the kids and the pirates and who gets there first. The episode kind of alludes to the fact that the pirates should be on their way first, but you don't really know when that scene between when the pirates escape from the New Republic and get into space and have this whole conversation and trial with Jod. You don't know how much time has passed between that and what we see with the kids. So there's a world in where the kids do get there faster or do get there first. And I think the story could go one of 2 ways, either depending on who gets there first and who gets there second, right? Pirates get there first. I think they invade. They start to destroy the city. Everybody needs help. It can be something similar to what we saw with the Navarro invasion by Gorian Shart's pirate gang in Mandalorian Season 3, where they just kind of destroy this city. They don't really care. They're razing it to the ground. They want to kill everybody and they want to take the mint and use it to make money for themselves. They don't really care about the people who live there. So I think we'll see that as well. And then if the kids get there, I think they're going to come meet up with the parents and then kind of try to talk the parents maybe into getting in touch with the supervisor to call for help. And I think one of the big themes of this episode and next week episode is going to be how isolationist does At-Attin want to be moving forward, and what do they do? Do they reach out and they call for help? And as you see in this past episode, Wim finally identifies the X-Wings as the good guys. Do they call the New Republic for help? And does that now tie it to the rest of the Mandalorian universe, because the New Republic comes and kind of saves the day and saves them from the pirates in episode 8? So I think that could be a direction they go. If not, I think the kids get there and warn the parents before the pirates get there and kind of say, this is going to happen. We need to call for help. And then there's a dialogue with the supervisor. So either way, I do expect the New Republic to show up at some point in episode 8, I think, to save the day. And I think that's going to be kind of the objective, because we don't know what the defenses are like. We don't know what the warlike capabilities of this planet are. And so we know that they're the only ones that have survived out of all these other planets. It looks like all of them are pretty much destroyed or in some facet discoverable by the rest of the galaxy. So what is At-Attin? I assume they have some type of droid defense system, and I think we'll see that come into the fold against the pirates in this episode. But do the droids really care about the people? I think all of that will kind of give us an indication on who the Supervisor is and whether or not we will see a full New Republic Defense Force start to show up in the next episode. And I think a lot of that will lead ultimately to the big reveal of the Supervisor in this week. But let us know what you guys think is going to happen in episode 7 of Skeleton Crew. We want to hear your guys' theories. We'll let you know what we think of them and comment back in the comments below. Make sure you like the video. If you haven't, it really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe so you don't miss the rest of our Skeleton Crew coverage. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Predictions, and we will see you all next week.